Hello, fellow Murdlers. Today is Thursday, April 4th, 2024, and it's a great day to solve a murder. Today we've got deductive LOGICO in the case of the sugar cube, and we have 3 4x4 grids with suspects, locations, and weapons. We do have a red murder clue today. A sugar cube was found beside the famous bear. So let's go ahead and take a look at our weapons. I suspect that this cup of poison tea is going to be it. It's missing some sugar cubes. Sure enough. All right, so that is our murder weapon today. So let's go ahead and put that in here. Poison tea is the murder weapon. And then we'll use our detective's notebook and our clues and evidence to figure out the who and the where. First, though, let's go ahead and take a look at our suspects. We have Miss Saffron, Secretary Celadon, Vice President Mauve, and Mixed Tangerine. The weapons today are the poison tea, which is of course our murder weapon today, an exploding pipe, a climbing axe, and a bow and arrow. The locations are the Old Pine, the entrance gate, a high-end tent, and the hot spring spa. All right, let's go ahead and dive into our clues and evidence. Right away, we've got a fingerprint clue, which I love. So we're looking for a fingerprint that matches this one. So flip these over. All right, that's going to be Vice President Mauve. You can see kind of here this half swirl pattern here. And everyone else has like complete swirls in there. So that is Vice President Mauve. And what is that telling us? Vice President Mauve then had the bow and arrow. Okay, so I'll mark that in. And we can cross that off. The next one's an either or clue, so I'm going to save this for later. We'll be able to solve it more easily when we have more information. But let's go to this next one. A feather was seen indoors. So now we need to look at our weapons, most likely, and see what would have had a feather. Not the poison tea, not this. Beautiful feathers on the arrows. Okay, so it's the bow and arrow. So now we actually know more information about Vice President Mauve's location too, which is great. So let's look at our locations because this has kind of two parts that we need to figure out. We need to figure out what had the feather and what locations were indoors. So let's look through these. Old Pine is outdoors, outdoors, indoors for the high-end tent, and indoors for the hot spring spa. So I'll mark these two with X's because they were outdoors and they couldn't have been there. I'll do the same under Vice President Mauve because we do have that association with that weapon. And then I'm going to put question marks here for the locations because it has to be one of these two. And I'll do the same here. All right. So we can go ahead and cross that off and this off. Oh wait, no, not that. We're coming back to that. We can cross this off though. Okay, okay, a bow and arrow was not in a high-end tent. So that kind of solves this already. Very short-lived clue there. Oh, sorry, it was not in a high-end tent. There we go. So that means that the bow and arrow must have been at the hot spring spa, and likewise, Vice President Mauve must have been at the hot spring spa. Right? So we'll mark those in. Mark that off. Okay, and now we already know that we only had 2 indoor locations, the hot spring spa and the high-end tent. And this next clue is saying that Miss Saffron was seen indoors. So that means that Miss Saffron must have been in the high-end tent, and we'll mark that in. All right. Okay, here we go. This also allows us to solve this clue because we know Miss Saffron's location was not the high-end tent, or sorry, not the hot spring spa. It was the high-end tent, and Vice President Mauve was at the hot spring spa. So that means the second part of this cannot be true, so the first part must. So that means that an exploding pipe was by the Old Pine. So this is, I believe, the exploding pipe. Yep. So we'll mark that in there. And that also means that we can mark that the exploding pipe was not Miss Saffron's weapon today. Because it would require her to be at the Old Pine, and of course we know that she was at the high-end tent. Right? A brown hair was found wrapped around the climbing axe. So let's go ahead and look at our suspects. We've got blonde hair, brown hair, so it might be Secretary Celadon, black hair, blonde hair. Okay, so it is Secretary Celadon. Climbing axe, we'll go ahead and mark that in with a yes. And with this, we now know who had the murder weapon, the poison cup of tea. That is Miss Saffron. And that's through a process of elimination. We knew that she could not have had any of these other weapons, so this was the only weapon she could have. This will similarly allow us to say that mixed tangerine must have had the exploding pipe. And I believe we'll also be able to now place the rest of our suspects, because we know that if we know where the tree was, or the old pine, that's mixed tangerine. So that means that Secretary Celadon must have been by the entrance gate. All right. So there's that. I'm gonna just take 2 extra seconds to fill out the rest of the grid here. Actually, before I do, I'll go ahead and mark this in. So again, we had Miss Saffron with the cup of poison tea in the high end tent. There's our solution. I'm gonna go ahead and make our accusation in a moment. But first I'm just gonna finish the grid real quickly, just make sure everything's looking correct. Okay, everything is looking correct. It's looking good. I'm feeling good about this, so let's go ahead and see if we were right. All right, we were right. Thanks so much for playing along with me today. I hope this was a helpful walkthrough, and we'll see you tomorrow.